can tell you that fear got the best of me on the first trip back from Mississippi, because I'm sitting on the plane with now 300 at that point wish lists on my lap saying, oh my God, what did we just promise these people? And I got scared that we overpromised and wouldn't be able to deliver. I got scared on that plane. But I had a little book with me, and it was called The Prayer of Jabez by Bruce Wilkerson. And it's a short 4 lines in the Bible that just says, bless me indeed and expand my territory, and that your hand would be with me, that I would do no harm and keep me from evil. It's a simple little prayer. But in that book, expand my territory, was the unbelievable aha moment that if 300 women or 800 women eventually needed to be wardrobe by something we did, we would find a way to make it happen. And that was like $400,000 that we raised to wardrobe the teachers. But it was the power of the belief that no matter what, if it matters, you will find the answers. So that was career. But there's so many other places that we can talk. As a parent, how many of you have parents and never been on a school board? And ever done that? Well, if you have, you know that they don't usually follow agendas or keep on time or keep to the bullet points or whatever. You, with your Toastmaster skills, can absolutely create effective communication and keeping to an agenda, getting your point across at school boards. As a volunteer, as an advocate, maybe you're an advocate for the homeless, and I'll talk about that in a minute. As a teacher, I use my quilting skills to start a quilting project in the school and began teaching children how to quilt from kindergarten all the way up to 8th grade. It makes a difference. Find what you love doing, whether it's a hobby, whether it's your career, whether it's something you care about, health-wise, nutrition. What is it that floats your boat? As a volunteer, how many of you have heard about team and training? You have, okay. Have you ever done one? No. Have you ever supported or written a check to support somebody? Well, we appreciate that. I love outdoor adventure. I love hiking. I love to be on Mother Earth because for me, I find answers to my life when it's feeling scattered. I get my feet on Mother Earth. So I read about Hike for Discovery, and it had to be it was a team in training where I would fundraise on behalf of Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And the goal being for myself, the why for me was a trip to the Grand Canyon. If I raised $4,000 for Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, not only would I have a 16-week training course, but I would raise money for them, and I would earn this trip to the Grand Canyon. Sounds like a win-win-win to me. I win, LLS wins, and most importantly, the people fighting those cancers were getting funding and support. Did I know anyone with leukemia or lymphoma at the time? Not one person. So what you see us holding are the names of the people we hiked in honor of at the end. Because by the time I sent letters, personal letters for fundraising saying, I'm doing this is how your donation will help, it was no longer about my trip. It was about the people that were being helped. I was asking in honor of the people who had leukemia and lymphoma. And by the time I did that first hike, I was hiking in honor or in memory of 40 people who I never knew, but I was proud to fundraise on their behalf. That volunteer opportunity I did 5 times and loved it. Here's where volunteering and doing things you love anyway makes a difference. So in community, we heard about tremendous, like 2008, 9, 10 people are losing their homes around here. Homelessness is a huge issue. you and I, people that maybe were sitting next to you in a conference room somewhere, say in 2009, you may not know that they had lost their home. You may not know they are living out of their car. And when I found out a friend of mine was on the board of sheltering for Contra Costa County, I thought, well, how come I don't know that you do this? So tell me more. I was curious because I just don't want to see families and children on the streets or losing their homes because they're one car repair away from making their house payment. Or maybe they were self-employed or a commission job where they, one particular case, a gentleman lost his home because he was commission only. And his wife earned minimum wage. And he got cancer. And he couldn't work. And they lost their home. Those are the people that became important to me. And I thought, what could I do? So going back to Kevin, selling persuasion and speaking under fire and selling the sizzle on something, I went before the board at Sheltering of Contra Costa County, and I said, you don't know me, but what could you do with $200,000? And they went, who are you? And I said, I'm someone who just loves to hike. I love outdoors. I love the Grand Canyon. And I love hiking with like-minded people who want to make a difference. And I explained my experience with Leukemia and Lymphoma Society on the hike, team and training. And what I did was I brought that template to Sheltering, and we formed a team. But it wasn't so much why we were doing it, it's the why, homelessness. But so many people, and I'm sure many of us here say, I can't fundraise. I have a horrible time asking people for money. Well, part of the speaking and enrolling and talking to people at information meetings and different places was, what's their why? Why did they want to be part of our team to raise money for homeless families or to prevent homelessness? That's the key, preventing homelessness. What was their why? Was it outdoor adventure? Was it somebody to just, I mean, the Grand Canyon is one of the top, bucket list destinations that people want to go see. If you could go there without any expense and get a personal training program, how cool is that? I love physical activity. I like being trained. So our whole training program brought people in whose lives changed one step at a time. We had one gal that came to an information meeting and she just said, I'm doing this because I'm 60 years old and I've never done any physical exercise in my life. I'm doing this for me. Physically. That was her why. And in that process, she and her husband now hike all the time. She has been empowered to put her feet on a trail and make a difference. Other people knew people who were homeless. So in our project, in speaking with people and fundraising, I had to keep reminding hikers when I'm training them and talking to them on a trail, is say, it's not about you. It's fundraising is not about you. It's not about your why or getting a free trip or getting free training or any of that. The why is what matters. It's the people that are living in their cars. And just for information for you, we live in a pretty affluent area here in Contra Costa County, right? On any given night, even now, before the recession, now, at least 7,000 people are living on the streets or in their cars in Contra Costa County. 15,000 people each year, minimum, will be homeless in Contra Costa County. So average amount, just for your own knowledge, is that the average amount that a family needs to stay out of the streets is $900. It might be $300 over the course of 3 months. That's what we got to raise funds for, was to provide that gap so that families could stay in their home, or they could transition from homelessness to whatever, to a stable environment. But these lives were changed. Every one of them spoke. They didn't have Toastmaster skills. They didn't have the ability to practice in front of a group before they asked. They simply spoke. They asked. They wrote letters. They wrote letters from the heart that it wasn't about them, it was about the impact. So it does matter. When I talked about career, I said I wanted to be a public speaker and earn money doing that. In my career with Weekenders, maybe I wanted to be a keynote speaker initially. Maybe I thought I wanted to be the $10,000 a gig keynote speaker. But what I found in my career and in my volunteer work and community was that I didn't want that at all. I simply wanted to have my voice become the vehicle to create change. When you're talking about fear holding you back, overcoming the fear of public speaking was huge for me. And I went on from that point to overcome my fear of heights. I jumped out of an airplane. I learned how to ski in my 40s. And let me tell you, fear controlled me. You know, I look at people and you see them down mountains and they're going, woohoo! And I go, I want to feel that instead of that. So I redefined fear as find every adventure rewarding. F-E-A-R. Find every adventure rewarding. I try to imagine what would it be like early on to be a public speaker, to be in front of the big conference and get a standing ovation. If you just close your eyes for a second and imagine, how would that feel? Own that. Own that feeling. What would it feel like to step out of your comfort zone constantly and say, what would it feel like out here if I actually did that? What would it feel like for me sitting on that plane to actually change the lives of 800 teachers by just getting out there and telling people there's a need? So we can create change by things we care about. Absolutely. It's not about the money, it's about the message. I recently went to one of those talks, where somebody mentioned Tony Robbins and you learn from other people. How many of you have heard of Marcia Weeder? Okay, America's Dream Coach. She talks about having a dream and living the dream, owning what it feels like to achieve that dream. Well, I went to one of her Inspiring Speakers workshop. Okay, I don't want to be a motivational speaker. I want to inspire someone. If one person in this audience is inspired to step out of their comfort zone and say, childhood diabetes really matters to me. Nutrition matters to me. The environment matters to me. Where can you go? Step out. Don't wait till you do all that. There's manuals. 90% enthusiasm, 10% knowledge. In my career with Weekenders, that's what I had at the beginning. I became a $1 million manager within the first year, and people said, how did you do that? And I said, I don't know. I just like the clothes and like to help women dress comfortably and affordably. That's it. I have fun. I shared my enthusiasm. And then about year 11, it's like, I've been there, done that. Sell, recruit, train, sell, recruit, train. Suddenly I was 90% knowledge and 10% enthusiasm. You need to check in with what you're feeling. And when you find that spark in you that says, this matters, it's important, when you step out of your comfort zone and do something about it. So Marcia Weeder was at this talk, and I had spent $3,500 at this inspiring speakers workshop. And it was several months later, I was at a luncheon with her, and I'm sitting there going, that was kind of a waste of money. I'm not getting those gigs and all that. And all of a sudden, she looked straight at me in the audience, and she said, and sometimes it's not about the money. It's about being an inspiration to someone. It's about your message. And as soon as she said that, looking eyeball to eyeball at me, all of a sudden, the ka-ching, 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 $400,000 for Katrina, for Fashions for Compassion, $322,000, ka-ching, to prevent homelessness in the area. I kept rolling the tape of everything that I had done, every dollar that I had raised as a volunteer or as a leader in a community. Ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. It wasn't in my pocket, but it was wealthy to my soul. Because your voice is the window to your soul. I believe that. It's the window to your soul. Your voice is our teacher at every Toastmaster meeting, everywhere you speak. Your voice is our teacher. We learn about the things in our club that you care about. But I'm encouraging you to take it even farther out of the club. Does it have to be big? No. And I put this up because after I finished the Hike for Shelter project, I passed the baton. And this is one of the beauties of Toastmasters, is that we mentor new members. We teach the leadership skills. Every week somebody's doing something for the first time. They're being the timer, the evaluator, the Toastmaster. We are creating leaders. Does it have to be huge, a huge event where you're raising millions of dollars at what you speak about? It can be something simple. I passed the baton. New leaders step forward to keep the program going for Shelter Inc. This project was something I said, well, my life is in chaos. A lot of things were happening in my life a few years ago. And I thought, I can't take on the role of leader again on a huge project, even though I may have wanted to, because I really love that project. But I could do something done in the day. I still was passionate about families who are homeless. But I also knew that there were a lot of families living in shelters that couldn't get placed in transitional homes. They left with nothing but a backpack on their back. And they had basic few outfits for survival to get the kids to school or whatever. And I got to thinking, well, what do they wear when they're in these shelters? What are they wearing when they're asleep in the car? And by the way, 6,000 people that Shelter helped last year, over half of them are children. Children. And I thought, they don't pack PJs. They don't pack slippers and warm fuzzy socks and robes to sleep in at the shelter. So what could I do? I have a holiday open house. Price of admission, a pair of wrapped PJs for someone at a shelter. Wrap it, label it, boy, girl, man, woman, newborn, up to triple extra large. It didn't matter. People in shelters needed to feel the warmth of something to sleep in. So that was a day project. The quilt label up on the top is, we don't know what a hobby will do to allow you to speak. I was taken in Katrina. There was one of the schools were piles and piles, hundreds of quilts that had been made. And this label was from a quilting group here, right here in the Bay Area. I think it was San Ramon, California. And I thought, how cool is that? Somebody got their voice out there to share just a hobby that they do with a quilting group, that these then went on to people in need. You know, every day we hear about things in the news, you know, the typhoons and the earthquakes in the Philippines that are happening now. What's going to flutter where you say, I'm going to do something. Don't wait till you get it all perfectly scripted. Get out of your club and make a difference. Your voice matters in this world. It truly matters. What you speak about is things that matter to you. It matters about your self-esteem and your self-confidence. When you speak in Toastmasters, you inspire the confidence in other people. That 10-year-old that lost all self-esteem and all self-confidence, learning the lesson of plagiarism. It controlled my life till I was 47 years old. It was when my youngest son, 11 at the time, just spoke with heart, and passion, and persuasion and said, this is stupid. You gotta take it out. People are more important than cars. What's important to you? What matters to you? Your voice has power to create change in your own life, in your community, and in the world. Questions about fundraising or where to go, but Rotary clubs, service organizations, speaking to Kiwanis about the homelessness, they ended up donating a large amount to things. So you don't know where your impact will lead or where it will take someone else who hears your message. Your voice is the vehicle to a world of change, change for good. Any questions? Are you with me? Yeah.
When you started with the homeless, you go in as a speaker, or you can go in initially?
Initially, I went into the board. I called up and I said, I have an idea that could raise significant funds for your families who are facing homelessness. And I met with the executive director initially, the board, or the executive director initially, and then I was invited to give a presentation to the board of directors. And I really had to sell the sizzle because they had to invest a certain amount of money on the promise that our hikers would raise the money. And they did. They did. It was like bullet point, yeah, okay, here's the dollars and cents, here's the logistics, here's the how and the money. We created the money by the why later on. I didn't have to sell the why to the board. I had to sell the money, the logistics of it. But I had been a participant for 5 years in LLF, so I knew the program. I knew it was possible, and I knew it. The hikers were asked to raise $4,000 each. It cost us $1,000 to send them to the Grand Canyon. So they were quadrupling what the cost. So the bottom line was they didn't raise $4,000. The average was $5,300 each. They raised far more than they were asked to. And if they didn't raise it, they had to ante up to make the difference if they wanted to still be on the team. But their lives were changed. They got fit, they got healthy, they raised money, they kept families in homes. $322,000 at $900 a family goes a long way. Yes.
Yes. So I have a fairly comfortable job in PA, so I was just curious. Either you have 40 hours in a day, or somehow you have a lot of time to look at that you could help. And so I was just wondering if one component of this is already being financially independent, or having a little bit of extra time to.
Right, and you give what, we have time, treasure, or talent. Each of us has one or all three. I had time because for 12 years actually for 30-some years, I was self-employed. I worked out of the house. So I could volunteer in the schools. I could take the time. I would chunk it off. Now I'm at a place where little, I got